Good morning, friends. Nice to see you. I've said this before, sometimes, especially after if I'm here for a while, I've been here for 20 minutes or so, chanting. The chant ends, so I don't really feel like speaking. Anyway, here we go. Little bit of talking, just to greet you, give some context, and then we can sit together. So, if you've been here the last few days, I've been mentioning that it's Wesak this week, right? The May full moon, the celebration Sakadawa, Buddha Purnima, the moon of Buddha's awakening. And so it's sort of the biggest week in the Buddhist calendar in that way. And as such, in the build-up to the night of Wesak, on Thursday night, I've just been reflecting a little bit on the Buddha's life, and particularly that period, right, where the Buddha, pre-Buddha, because Buddha isn't a name, it's a title, right? It means awake. Buddha, one who's awake. So, the pre-Buddha, the Gautama, this guy, he's left home in a fit of existential restlessness and angst and confusion and perplexity about, what is it to be human? The recognition that his fate is going to be one of aging and sickness and death, like the fate of all of us. And in the midst of that, rather than just careering along that trajectory, doing the conventional things of working and being in some kind of family situation and having some friendships and then getting old and dying. It's like, well, surely, here's this amazing thing called life. Surely there must be more than that. And inspired by the practitioners of his day, by seeing these forest dwellers, sadhus, renunciates, he follows the same route. So he shaves off his hair, takes off his fine clothes, takes up the rags of the mendicant, and goes forth from the dust of the homeless life, the dust of the householder life, into the way that is open and clear, the life of the homeless one. So, and then spends the next 6 years, as I know I mentioned some of this yesterday, practicing. He has two primary teachers, Ramaputra and Alaya Kalama, and he kind of does a lot of absorption meditation with them, and just really learning to train the attention, but also going into these absorption states, which are characterized by bliss, by stillness, by clarity, by all these good meditative qualities. But he feels like when he comes out of these states, not much has changed. He's still wrestling with feeling like a person in what feels like a world, and the friction of that. The sense that there's an inner and an outer, the sense that life is somehow mysteriously elusive in some way. And that as if there's this kind of profound longing in him, in all of us, this profound longing to somehow close the gap we feel. Because all the while we feel a gap between what we call inner and outer, me and the world, self and life, we somehow feel apart, we feel excluded, we feel alone. Whatever we might be with others, we might have, but we somehow feel alone because it's like there's this fundamental veil of delusion, we might say in Buddhist language, a veil wherein we keep reinforcing and believing in this fundamental sense of separation. And so Buddha after leaves both his teachers and tries to do what he can to dissolve this veil of separation. But he doesn't really know what he's doing. So he goes about it in rather extreme and unhelpful ways. He does a lot of fasting. He does a lot of kind of extreme practices. And it's as if he's trying to eradicate himself as a way to dissolve this veil. And maybe you can, relate to that in some ways. I can relate to that. When I first got into practice, I had that idea, and you hear that idea a lot in meditative traditions, something about getting rid of the ego, or it might be called transcending the ego. But there's some way in which we talk about a practice of letting go and of being with experience. But in some ways, subtly or not so subtly, it's like we're just trying to get rid of ourselves, get rid of thought, for example. It's like we've recognized that there's something uncomfortable about being me, and we somehow consciously or not so consciously think that the solution is to somehow manage to do away with that. Which is rather sad, really, because it means that our practice is based on a sense of conflict with ourselves, conflict with life. We've already come to a conclusion that there's something wrong, something bad, something that needs to be gotten rid of. And the Buddha, went into that blind alley of practice quite intensely. And as I say, doing a lot of fasting and all, until he became really weak. He became weak and confused, right? Because actually his mental clarity had really gone down. Became very thin. And if you look at some of the iconography, aside from the sort of classic Buddhist statues, you can sometimes see these statues of what's called the fasting Buddha. He's got long hair tied up on his top of his head, and all his ribs are showing through, and his belly is kind of concave. It's very gaunt. And that was the situation in which he found himself in the period just right leading up to the awakening. And then he was staying under a tree somewhere in what is now Bihar, just near Bodh Gaya, and one can still visit that spot now where he was staying. It's just about a kilometre, maybe 1.5 kilometres from then where the Bodhi tree is, where Buddha then went to sit afterwards at the night of awakening. But this time he was resting in this place, and he was weak and confused, deluded. And then a young woman saw him in this lamentable condition and thought, oh God, what's this guy doing? What's the matter with him? And so she brought him some kheer. Kheer is like rice pudding, basically. Sweet, milky rice, flavoured with cardamom. Very delicious. And she brought him this, and he was used to like barely eating and all this. And initially made some prosternations, he's living this ascetic life. And she said some version of, look, mate, get over yourself, you clearly need to eat. And so Sujata, so there's this place that one can still visit there where Sujata offered the rice milk. And Buddha took it and, of course, started to feel better, and realised the folly of that sort of extreme asceticism. Realised the ways he'd been kind of, that self-denial was really counterproductive. So we don't need to look to such an extreme situation to recognise, so the Buddha had come from a life we could call self-indulgent, right? Grown up in a sort of one of the wealthiest families of his environment. His father had been the local king. Probably too strong a word, but the more than just the village head person was kind of the most influential and person around. I don't know what the name for that is. So the Buddha had rejected this sort of self-indulgent life of luxury and comfort and convenience, and maybe we can relate to that, right? Moments where we felt, this life of comfort and convenience, even if we don't have it very comfortable. or very convenient. We live in a world that's orientated towards trying to, as if the whole meaning of life is to have things be comfortable and convenient. But what a great abyss of a lack of meaning in that. Yes, thanks, Kaz. His dad was a lord, yes. So he'd rejected that, but then he'd gone very far the other way towards self-denial, you know. And I see that playing out on retreat sometimes. And actually, it's usually from people who are very sincere in their practice, very motivated, and yet there's some sense that trying to get rid of oneself, one's thoughts, one's problems, etc., etc. And so Sujata really was this kind of saintly figure in the life of the Buddha who saw through his unhelpful asceticism. And there's that gesture, it's like, oh, hey, drink some milk pudding, you know, or some rice pudding. Oh, and the nourishment of that. The act of kindness, tenderness that is. And I think in the allegory, that what's suggestive from the allegory of the story is just the reminder of how crucial a kind gesture is, a gentle gesture. You know, in all kinds of circumstances and situations and towards the people around us, but actually particularly like those moments where we can feel, oh, I'm pushing against myself, I'm fighting against myself, I'm imagine I should be not like this, and then, oh, can you offer yourself some rice pudding? You know, can you make that gesture that dissolves the self-denial? And so I feel like our practice very much can be about that kind of offering. There's sort of, it's pictured right now, as you see the Buddha very thin under the tree, and then you see this young woman kind of simply dressed but kind of rather elegant and beautiful, and just offering the rice milk. And I think you can just take that whole image and make it an internal sense of, oh, here I am, oh, serious, dried up, you know, ascetic. And then here's the heart, you know, very simple, elegant offering. Might we make an offering to that uptight part of ourselves, to that part that gets caught in self-denial, caught in inner conflict, that creates friction with our experience. And might we offer it the nourishment, like a warm, milky rice pudding. Nourishment that actually brings back some energy, that resolves the conflict. Yeah. So that's the state of things in the life of the Buddha just leading up to the awakening. And tomorrow will be the day of Wesak, and I'll fill in that last little gap, right, from getting the rice pudding to going and sitting under the tree, and then the kind of significant recollection from childhood, and then what made the difference. But for now, then, as we sit into meditation, maybe we can just sit into the meditation with that sense of nourishment, the nourishment of the heart, the nourishment of a kind offering, the nourishment of rice pudding, the nourishment of that which allows to bring some energy as we relax and stop pushing. Yeah. So friends, please take your seat for meditation. That posture of fasting Buddha, if you've ever seen one of those statues. That sense of asceticism, nevertheless has a certain dignity and intentionality to it. That kind of steadfastness. And so you might, as you settle into your posture, just initially, sit in a way that's really, really here. Really steady on the ground, really upright in the spine, really open in the chest and shoulders. And then, having set that up, and please just soften it all just a little bit. Let your knees rest into the ground. Let your shoulder blades just slide a little down your back. Let your vertebrae rest upon each other. And let the muscles of your face relax and soften. Let the gentle, natural feel of your breathing open up your chest and belly. And let your attention follow your breath down into the deep space inside your belly. Down into the deepest place from which the beginnings of the in-breath are felt. And that first muscular movement of breathing in happens. And where the last moment of the softening out breath is felt. And just spending these first minutes of meditation really just sensing into breath, settling into breath, softening into breath. Sensing, settling, softening. Sensing means letting your attention really penetrate into the feel of body sitting, the natural aliveness of sensation. The expanding and relaxating, the expanding and relaxing within the rhythm of in-breath and out-breath. Settling means letting that sense of your attention really soak in to the feel of being here. Feeling for a quality of steadiness, naturalness. And softening. Softening means, as we recognize the little tensions that we hold on to, subtle tensions that might develop in your face or your hands or your shoulders or wherever. And you just keep releasing them, relaxing them. Like this we learn, again and again and again, we learn how to be here. We learn that it's okay to be here. We learn that we can sit in a presence that's unconcerned, undefended. The more we settle and open and relax in this way, the more we might recognize the ways in which we've been harsh with ourselves, caught in some form of self-denial, self-criticism, self-punishment, self-hatred even. And we might recognize how powerful, how beautiful that image of the offering of rice milk, that sense of heartfelt offering of nutrition, warmth, might be. Just as a belly full of rice milk brought the Buddha back to life, just how our belly feels contented and warm and round after eating something genuinely nourishing. Just like that, maybe it's possible to sit here now with a belly that's warm and relaxed and contented. one that allows breathing to come and go naturally, one that allows our attention to settle and soften. One that allows, just for this minute, just for this moment, it allows everything to be just as it is. Just like this. Warm belly, soft belly, happy belly, strong back, straight back, gentle breath, natural breath, easeful breath. Kind awareness, spacious awareness, gentle, peaceful awareness. established in this way. Straight back, soft belly, spacious awareness. Swelling and softening breath. Everything can come and go freely. Thought is not a problem. Sensations, pleasant or unpleasant, can come and go. Sounds flow naturally. Everything is welcome. What we call self and what we call world are all of one texture. One texture of immediate experience. One texture of a natural unfolding. sensing, settling, softening into being here. While also maybe it's possible opening, allowing, expanding into awareness. Awareness within experience. Awareness in this body, in the breath. And yet simultaneously experience in awareness. Sensations within awareness, sounds within awareness, breathing in awareness. Everything in everything. All one taste. May we all know true nourishment. True ease. True freeness of being. True peace. Thanks, George, posting that little sweet little picture of Sujata offering rice to the Buddha. It's an unusual picture. As I say, usually the Buddha's pictured as being incredibly gaunt, where he looks rather. Hello? Are we all there? Ah, yes. I tapped on that image that George sent, and I don't know where it took me, but I lost you all for a moment there. There we go. Yeah. Usually, as I say, the Buddha looks very gaunt and malnourished in those images, whereas he looks rather plump and healthy in that photograph. All right, friends. So here we are. It's time for a few questions. If there's things you'd like to explore, then feel free. I'll just make the very brief morning mention of dana, offering, support, generosity, the mutuality that really allows Sangha Life to exist. Just a lot of, many thousands of dollars or euros or whatever of overheads every month to maintain Sangha Life, and the only way that those costs are met are through your generosity. So that's why we mention it. That's why I mention it every day, right? It might feel like, oh God, is he going on about that again? But it's the reminder is in the service of it working. And of course, if we don't speak about it, it doesn't happen. So maybe it seems a little irritating or tiring or something, but maybe you can take it in the spirit in which it's meant. It's like there's a lot of goodness here. There's a lot of, it's good that many different teachers can offer practices and teachings and support here. It's good that people can just show up and practice live online with a whole Sangha. It's good that you're able to then share this with other people, tell people about it, etc. It's good. It's all good. It's all good. And the maintaining of that and the supporting that through generosity rather than through a price or a fixed subscription, that's also good. So thank you for your goodness, and if you feel moved today to offer in that way, then it's much appreciated, much needed, and very well received. So thank you. All right, let's have a look. Eleanor asks, could you do a day of practice on the art of rest? Oh, yes, we can all just doze off together. I think the next few days of practice already have a theme, but yes, Eleanor, why not? I'll bear that in mind, and I'd be happy to. Roger asks, is there a possibility to join tomorrow night online? I don't know. I haven't considered doing that. It would be nice in some ways to make that a possibility, but I also wonder, I could just leave a Zoom connection on there all night long, I guess, and it'd just be we'd just be sitting there, me and a few others in the room, shuffling about. Let me see, Roger, I'll give it some thought today, and ask me again tomorrow, and I'll try to have a yes or no, depending on what the logistics are for that. Yeah. Yes, some of you expressing the wish to spontaneously appear here at the Mulan and sit with us tomorrow night. Well, you can be with us in spirit. Yeah, and yes, Lizzie, that's exactly the way that image is usually portrayed. Hipster starving Buddha. Hipster because he's always bearded, right, to suggest that sense of asceticism, etc. Yeah. All right. Nicola says, is awareness in breathing even possible without breathing in awareness? Without the knowing that I'm breathing? I'm not quite sure I understand the question, Nicola. Is awareness in breathing even possible without breathing in awareness? Without the knowing that I'm breathing? So what I mean by that, we were talking about this at the What the Buddha Taught course last night. There's this phrase the Buddha uses in meditation instruction about knowing the breath internally or externally or both. What does that mean? It means that we can experience, and for some of us have a facility one way or the other. Some of us might have the sense of, oh, here's a breath, and my awareness is inside the breathing. It's often very helpful to start that way, because we tend to be thinking about the breath, and so to actually establish a sense where the awareness is in the breath. Buddha calls it knowing the breath from within the breath, knowing breathing from the inside. Right? So it's not that you're relating to the breathing. No, your sense of your awareness is actually inside. It's like you're inhabiting the breath with awareness. Okay? But sometimes we can also have the sense, no, I'm sitting, that awareness is like a field. I'm sitting here, my very consciousness is a field of awareness, and in this field, breathing is happening. Right? So then we say the breathing is in awareness. And we can also have the perception that those, even though they sound opposite, are the same. That there's a kind of intimacy between awareness and experience, where the awareness being in the breath, or the breath being in awareness, is the same. And again, the image the Buddha gives of that is like water and milk. We're back to the milk again. If you pour water and milk together, is the milk in the water, or is the water in the milk? Both, right? But actually, they're seamlessly blended. And so there's that sense of awareness and experience being seamlessly blended. But one can approach that from either way. But the best way to approach it at first is awareness in the breath. And then as we settle, we might also have the reflection, that my awareness is in the breath, but also actually the breath is in awareness. Because awareness is simultaneously intimate with and inside of the breath, while also being a field of luminosity, or a field of knowing, a field of presence, in which breathing is happening, in which sounds are happening, in which sensations are happening. Yeah. What else? Ellie says, thanks for introducing us to the School of Rice Pudding. I'm enjoying this so much. Will the sitting all night long be tonight or the next one? It'll be tomorrow night, Thursday night. Is there any way to take part online? How would you go about it, sitting alone at home? All right, maybe we'll try to do it tomorrow night. And I think we're going to start here at about 10:30 French time. But it's all going to be in... Is it going to be in English or French? I think it might be all in French tomorrow night. I think mostly it's French people coming. I'll tell you definitively tomorrow. Right, remind me tomorrow. And if we can do it, we'll do it. I'll set up a little Zoom setting. I'll give you the link. You can sit with us through the night. Firstly, at 10:30, we'll do some sitting and chanting, and I'll give a talk, and then we'll go off and we do this moonlit walk, where we walk around the boundary of the Mulan, and that's traditional practice in that sense of you sort of take in the sense of the blessings of the land and the way it supports our practice, and we also offer blessings to the land and all the beings here, and a sense of sharing the goodness of our practice. Then we come back to the hall and chant the refuges, and then we sit. And that's not going to. You're welcome to join us if we can make the Zoom connection work. It's usually quite low light in there, so I don't know how good the connection will be. But let's see if we can make it possible. And maybe tomorrow I'll just check how many of you might be interested in doing that, and whether we can set up a Zoom connection, and whether or not we're going to do it tomorrow in English or French. I have to check with who's here. All right. So, yeah, I think we'll stop there for today. Doesn't seem to be any more questions. So I'll leave you with the taste of rice pudding, taste of nourishment. That sense that goes with that of kind of just an inner warmth, the warmth of kindness, the warmth of gentleness, the warmth of putting down, relaxing the inner conflicts, etc. Yeah. All right. Please go gently through the day. Thank you for your practice and your presence, your many kindnesses to each other in the comments there. See you tomorrow. Thank you.